I never thought I'd end up here. 26, alone in a new city, half unpacked boxes still stacked in the corner of a one-bedroom apartment that didn't even feel like mine yet. After the breakup, I needed a clean slate, a new place to figure things out. I didn't have much, just 2 part-time jobs and a dream of independence. But independence is expensive. Every month felt like a race against time. Groceries or electricity, bus fare or rent. I was always calculating, always compromising. My rent was $950, and this month, I was $300 short with no miracle in sight. I started ignoring calls, turning my phone screen down when I saw Marcus, landlord, flash across it. I figured if I avoided him long enough, maybe I'd find a way to fix it. Marcus was different. Mid-30s, confident but not arrogant, the kind of guy who dressed well even on a Sunday. He wasn't like any landlord I'd ever had. No banging on the door, no threats taped to the wall. In fact, when I first moved in, he helped me carry my mattress up 3 flights of stairs. Smiled the whole time. Said he liked having good energy in the building. That day, the day the rent was due, I skipped lunch and stayed late at my second job. My feet hurt. My head was heavy. I came home hoping, praying, I could avoid him. But luck isn't something I've ever had much of. I was fumbling with my keys when I heard footsteps in the hallway. I looked up and there he was. Marcus. "Hey, Eli," he said calmly. "Got a minute?" I froze. My stomach sank. I nodded, not knowing what to say. We sat in my tiny kitchen, him leaning back with ease, me tense, with my hands clenched under the table. "I know you're short this month," he said. "I get it. Life's expensive, and this city doesn't play fair." I kept quiet. I expected the worst. Maybe an eviction notice. Maybe a warning. But then he leaned in and smiled, gentle, almost too kind. "But I have an idea. Something a little different. See, not everyone settles rent with money." My heart skipped. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely audible. He didn't answer right away. He just looked at me for a second too long, then stood up and walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned back and said, "Think about it. Come by my place tonight if you want to talk more." And just like that, he was gone. I sat there, confused, nervous, but strangely curious. Rent was due, but apparently Marcus had other plans. That night, I stood outside Marcus's apartment door longer than I should have. My hand hovered over the wood, heart racing. I wasn't sure what I was walking into, but the fear of eviction outweighed the fear of the unknown. When he opened the door, he wasn't dressed up or trying to impress. Just jeans, a hoodie, and a calm smile. "I'm glad you came," he said. We sat on his couch. TV playing something in the background neither of us watched. He got to the point. "Here's my idea," he said. "You help me out around the property. Little things, painting the stairwell, fixing that busted light in the laundry room, organizing the storage unit downstairs. Stuff I can't get around to. In exchange, we push this month's rent. No late fees. No pressure." I waited, expecting a catch. But he just sipped his coffee like it was nothing. I agreed. Reluctantly. I needed a break. And for now, he was offering one. The days that followed felt normal. Easier, somehow. I'd come home from work, and there'd be a post-it note on my door with a task. Paint room B1. Replace hallway bulb. Storage unit Thursday. Simple things. Fair trade. But it wasn't just about the tasks. Every time I saw Marcus, we talked a little more. At first, it was casual, weather, work, the neighbors. But slowly, it shifted. He told me about his failed marriage, about how he once loved a man deeply, and how that man broke him in ways he still didn't understand. "I'm still healing," he admitted one night. But I don't like feeling alone. Neither did I. We started sharing coffee, then dinner, then hours just sitting on his balcony, talking about everything and nothing. I found myself laughing, actually laughing, for the first time in months. Then one night, after finishing a late project in the storage room, he offered me a drink. Just one glass of wine turned into 3. The city lights poured in through his window. The silence between us wasn't awkward anymore. It was charged. I opened up about my ex, the betrayal, the loneliness I carried like a second skin. He didn't say anything. He just reached out and pulled me into a hug. It lasted longer than it should have. And when I looked up, we kissed. Soft, hesitant, like we both knew this wasn't what we planned. But neither of us wanted to stop. He pulled back first. "Sorry," he whispered. I shook my head. "Don't be." There was a moment of stillness. Neither of us knowing what this meant, but both too tired to pretend it didn't happen. I stayed the night. As I lay there, my thoughts raced. Is this real? Or am I just grateful to feel something again? For a while, it felt like comfort. Like I had finally found something stable. Marcus started calling me his. My Eli. He said it so casually, like it had always been that way. I didn't question it at first. I liked how it felt, being wanted, needed, safe. We were spending most nights together now, cooking cheap meals, watching movies we'd already seen. I started leaving clothes in his closet, toothbrush by his sink. Felt like a routine, something normal. But slowly, that comfort started to shift. One night, I mentioned meeting a friend from work for drinks. Marcus's smile faded. "Why?" he asked. "Don't you think people judge us? They don't understand what we have." I brushed it off as insecurity. But soon, every time I tried to make plans, he'd find a reason for me to stay. "Why would you want to be anywhere else?" he'd say. "You've got everything here." I told myself he was just protective. Then came the phone. I had left it charging on the table. When I came back from the shower, Marcus was holding it, scrolling like it was his own. "Just making sure everything's okay," he said without looking up. "You don't always tell me what's going on." I froze. "I'm not hiding anything." He gave a tight smile. "I know. I just worry about you." That was the first time I felt something shift in my chest. A knot I couldn't untie. Rent came up a few days later. I offered to start paying again, now that I'd picked up more hours. But Marcus just waved it off. "You live here because of me," he said. "Let's not pretend you're doing me a favor." I didn't know how to respond. I thought we were in this together. Then came the drawer. He left it slightly open. I wasn't snooping, I was looking for a charger. But what I found instead was a second phone. Old cracked screen. Still buzzing. I opened it. Messages. Dozens. Someone calling him babe. Asking when they'd see him again. Saying they missed his arms, his voice. His apartment. I felt sick. When I confronted him, he didn't deny it. He didn't apologize. He just stared at me, expression blank. "You knew what this was," he said. "Don't act surprised now." My throat tightened. "You said I mattered." He laughed, cold and quiet. "You mattered. Until you didn't." That night, I didn't sleep in his bed. I lay awake in my own apartment, staring at the ceiling, heart cracking with each breath. I had confused comfort for care, stability for love. I thought I had finally been chosen. But as the silence filled my tiny room, I realized the truth. I never had his heart, just his favor. And with that came a deeper realization. Maybe I was never the partner. Maybe I was just the rent. That night, I didn't pretend to be okay. I cried loud, messy, and unapologetic. The kind of cry that comes from deep inside, where the betrayal lives. I wasn't just hurt. I felt used, unseen. like I had given pieces of myself to someone who only ever wanted access, not love. The next morning, Marcus showed up like nothing happened. Calm, composed, cold. "You can stay," he said, not even looking me in the eye. "But don't expect anything more." I stared at him. The man I once thought was my safety now looked like a stranger. "I'm not staying where I'm not respected," I said, steady but broken. He didn't fight it, didn't ask me to reconsider. He just nodded and walked away. I packed slowly. Each item I shoved into my bag felt like a reminder of how far I had fallen, how willing I had been to trade pieces of myself just to feel needed. There was no plan, no job lined up, no place to go. But somehow, freedom, even uncertain and terrifying, felt better than manipulation dressed up as romance. I called Sam, an old friend from back home. We hadn't talked in a while, but when I asked if they had a couch, they didn't hesitate. "Get here. I've got you," they said, and just like that, I was gone. The first few weeks were rough. I worked random shifts at a cafe, took up dog walking, even cleaned out garages to make ends meet. But for the first time in months, I was doing it for me. No strings, no favors disguised as affection. Sam reminded me what real support looked like, quiet, steady, without conditions. I slowly rebuilt, piece by piece. The nights felt longer, but the mornings felt lighter. And months later, I found myself walking past my old building, Marcus's building. I stopped to cross the street. The window to his unit was open, blinds swaying in the breeze. I expected something, rage, sadness, maybe a pinch of nostalgia. But I felt nothing, just a whisper of what I lost and what I gained. That apartment wasn't a home. It was a lesson, a reminder that love isn't about power or leverage or who owes who. It's about freedom, safety, choice. I gave him my heart when all he offered was control. But walking away, that was mine. Sometimes love isn't love, it's leverage. And sometimes losing someone is how you find yourself. I took one last look at that building and turned away, shoulders lighter, eyes clearer. Because in the end, I paid the rent with my heart. But I won't make that mistake again.